What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Huddle on this Friday, the 10th of November. Jam-packed show, per usual, for you this week. We're going to talk a little CJ Stroud. We're going to talk a little NFL head coaching. We're going to talk survivor pools. Of course, we've got quick-hitting picks, all that and more. And I'd like to bring in my trusty co-host, Tony Farmer, at Tony's Market Tips on Twitter. Make sure you follow him if you do not already. Tony, how's it going, buddy?
It's going good, man. I'm excited about this NFL weekend coming up. I'm excited that our show is pretty NFL heavy, and we'll be talking a lot of football today. I
want to get started something tangentially NFL, but my buddy sent me this. This has been doing the rounds on some of the social platforms, but I'm going to put a question out to you, Tony. Would you rather be given $1 million, or would you rather have 10 carries in an NFL game to gain 5 yards for $10 million?
Oh, man. 10 carries to gain 5 yards? Can I ask some follow-up questions? How good is my offensive line, and which defensive line am I going against? Just an average on average?
Like bang average, like number 16 in either metric.
Okay. Oh, man. I think I got to take the million, honestly, because if I lose, I will never be able to forgive myself. You know, if I come a couple yards short of that, I'm going to regret throwing away that $1 million. So I'm going to take the sure thing. How about yourself?
I think I agree, although I do think I have a follow-up question as well, though. If I gain 6 yards on one carry, do I have to do the other 9? And then if that means that I lose yardage on carries, do I get screwed that way? But no, I'm taking the $1 million 100%, man. I don't want to be out there. I don't know who the 16th ranked O-line in the NFL is, but putting my trust there, I don't know, man. That'd be a tough one. Another question.
Things to consider. How about medical bills, Andrew? I mean, if you and I get on the field, there's going to be some medical bills after these 10 carries. So we're going to be taking, a portion of that $1 million to fix our bodies afterwards.
Dude, I've already been talking last week about my neck and my back. Like, I'm a nonstop medical bill. I got to put this out there for you, Tony, as well. I don't know if you've seen this little news item, but especially since you're a Mac guy. But so apparently you're aware that Florida had legalized sports betting earlier in the week, correct?
Yep.
Well, it didn't take Florida long to find their first million. So somebody apparently put $1 million on Kent State plus 10.5 against Bowling Green. They ended up losing by 30, Tony. So I had questions about this. First of all, who is betting $1 million on Kent State plus 10.5 in some action? So I spent far too much time already digging into famous Kent State alumni. So I came up with 4 names that this possible bet, because I thought, like, you're going to be a famous alum, you're going to be rich. So these are the 4 names I came up with. I want you to tell me who the most likely candidate is.
I love this, man.
So I got it down to Drew Carey.
Ooh.
Arsenio Hall.
Ooh, okay.
Don King, who actually didn't graduate. Shocking.
Ooh, okay. Mm-mm.
Or Nick Saban.
Wow. Of those 4, by the way, I didn't know most of them went to Kent State. I'm going to go with Don King. I'm going to give Nick Saban the benefit of the doubt and say he's not betting. I could see Don King being a bettor. I could see him wanting to get some money down just based off of his vibrant personality. He reminds me of a lot of sports bettors I know. So I'm going to go with Don King, man.
I got to say, I kind of like Nick Saban. I'm pretty sure, does he not live in Florida? I think he has a residence in Florida.
Ooh, you're really Mr. Detective on this. This is impressive detective work, Andrew.
I was on people's Twitters, like seeing if they had tweeted like from and geotagged in Florida or something throughout the week. But super interesting. Now, let me ask you, do you believe like when stories like that trickle out about the sports betting space, like, somebody bet $1 million on this, or do you think that's all marketing?
I think it's legitimate. I don't think it's fake news. I think the bets took place, But I do want to caution people, that doesn't mean run to the window. Well, because some rich guy put $1 million on it, it must be a good bet. Very anecdotally, it seems like every time I see a story like that come out, the opposite result happens, it seems like. And so, be careful with those stories. But I think they're probably real. There's a lot of rich people out there who want to, throw money away like that.
Well, certainly people were throwing money away at last night's Thursday Night Football. Man, we keep getting hosed as football fans with these primetime games. Panthers at the Bears. Bears win 16-13. Box scores not optimal. Just a really bad football game. I know we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about this, but any takeaways for yourself from this game?
Couple takeaways. I think the Panthers are probably the worst team in the NFL, and I've got to walk something back because a couple weeks ago, remember, I was excited because Frank Reich was giving up the play calling reins. I said the Panthers are a team to kind of buy low on, and I think we saw the writing on the wall last week when they weren't able to get up for that game against the Colts. It was a revenge game for Frank Reich. That was kind of the Panthers' Super Bowl. And so it's like, all right, if you guys can't put anything together on offense in that game against that defense, that Colts defense, which has struggled, the writing was on the wall that they were tough, that they were in trouble. The other thing that I took away, and I kind of knew this going in, but the Bears defense is not bad. Like, against the pass, it's not great, but they have a very good defense against the run. And when they have certain matchups, against teams that don't have a prolific passing attack, they can look more than adequate, and I think we saw that last night. Montez Sweat on that defensive line is making a huge difference. I believe the Bears had 10 sacks total coming into that game, and we saw them wreak havoc at times last night. So keep an eye on that Bears defense moving forward.
Yeah, Bryce Young sacked 3 times, I believe, last night. Yeah, you're right. I mean, Bears defense, it's pretty decent. But a tough game, and the rest of the primetime schedule this week does not look great either. Got to pivot here because here on the Huddle, we've been fans of the Houston Texans for weeks now as we enter Week 10. We've been ahead of the curve on the Houston Texans, but we've got to talk about C.J. Stroud here. What a game, Tony, he had last week, and what a season he's actually having. Shot up the odds board after his box score porn last week. He's now minus 525 or thereabouts to win Rookie of the Year. Will Levis now 6th on the board, FYI, at plus 2,500. But let me ask you this, Tony. Forget about Rookie of the Year. He's basically got that on lockdown, knock on wood. Is C.J. Stroud for MVP alive at plus 12,500?
Man, I'd say it's alive. I'm going to pivot real quick back to the Rookie of the Year. Poor Puka Nacua. That guy is putting up a heck of a season, and he's got no chance if Stroud keeps doing what he's doing, barring an injury or something crazy. But MVP-wise, if you're getting over plus 1,200 for Stroud, you've got to consider it. I mean, we know this award typically goes to quarterbacks, and he is performing really well. 14 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's playing well on the road, and if you're looking ahead at can he sustain this, I want to give you 2 theories of why he can sustain this. One, he was playing with a mild shoulder injury earlier this season that was probably holding him back a little bit. Now that he's healthier, you can argue that he's going to start performing better. The other thing is really telling. 2 weeks ago, after a game, the press conference before the Bucks game, Stroud came out and kind of lobbied, very tactfully, but lobbied and basically said, I want to throw the ball more. He had some harsh critiques for the offense. DeMeco Ryans was asked about that. And then voila, the following week, over 40 pass attempts against the Bucks. We see what he did. Incredible performance. So I think that there's been a shift in the offensive philosophy in Houston where they're going to start leaning on his arm a little more and trusting him a little more. He lobbied for it. He got his way, and it worked. So I think we're going to see a lot more of last week's C.J. Stroud than the C.J. Stroud we saw earlier in the season. Of course, not 5 touchdowns every game, but in terms of the pass attempts and the volume of opportunities, I think we're going to see that moving forward.
6.5-point road dogs at Cincinnati this weekend. Hypothetical, put on your odds-making cap here. If C.J. Stroud goes in there, they win that game straight up. What do his MVP odds look like going into Week 11?
Man, that's a really good question. I think you got to look at, if he wins the division, it makes his MVP odds even higher because nobody was thinking the Texans were going to win that division coming into it. But you're right. I mean, that will be a national story. And by the way, the Bengals have a couple wide receivers who are banged up. So this isn't, Jamar Chase may not play. T. Higgins may not play. Texans have a bunch of injuries of their own, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But this scenario that you're bringing up, Andrew, it's actually not that far-fetched. I can see a world where that happens. And you're right. Plus 800. Plus 900. I mean, I think we definitely go through the, plus 1,000 if that scenario happens.
Man, like the dude is a stud. Texans 5-1 to win the South, 80-1 to win the AFC. D'Amico Ryans third on the odds board for Coach of the Year at 6-1. We've talked about him before as a couple of Niners fans here, but what a job he has done. So I've got a follow-up question for you. And we've sort of mentioned that the quarterback position in the NFL currently is not at its best. So my question for you is this. Is CJ Stroud already a top 10 quarterback in this league?
I think he is, Andrew. I mean, I put together my top 10 list here, and I've got him at 9th right now. You've got to leave room for regression with rookie quarterbacks because sometimes they can be figured out, right? So will he be in the top 10 at the end of the year? Not sure. But as I said earlier, there's definitely opportunity for him to even improve on what he's done so far if this offense opens up. 14 touchdowns, 1 interception. I love this kid. I mean, even in his press conferences outside, off the field, he sounds so mature. I remember at one point he was talking about how important winning is to the fans. He said something to the effect of, I'm going to butcher this and paraphrase it, but he said something to the effect of, hey, I'm a Lakers fan, and when the Lakers lose, I get upset. We need to have pride here in Houston. We need to get back to those winning ways. I mean, he's talking like a 10-year NFL veteran. So there's a lot of reasons to get excited in Houston. I mean, imagine the ratings for a rookie quarterback playing as well as he is if the Texans were to sneak into the playoffs. That'd be a fun playoff to watch for sure.
Dude, I love him. I think he's great. You alluded to your quarterback list. Do you want to hear mine, my top 10?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, I'll start from the top. Patrick Mahomes, number 1, obviously. Then I go Jalen Hurts. Then I go Lamar Jackson. Then I go Joe Burrow. Then Tua at 5. Josh Allen at 6. And then, Tony, I've got CJ Stroud, number 7. Trevor Lawrence, 8. Jared Goff, 9. Justin Herbert rounding out the top 10.
Nice. I like it, man. My top 4 was very similar to you. I got Mahomes, Hurts, Tua, and Lamar. Honestly, if someone were to argue and want to put Lamar 1 or Hurts 3, those 4 I feel like are completely interchangeable. I went with Burrow 5, Herbert 6. It looks like I like Herbert a little bit more than you. Josh Allen is 7. I mean, a couple weeks ago, you would have had to put Josh Allen toward the top, but the Bills are struggling. He's looking like a turnover machine at times, but obviously the talent is still there. I gave Lawrence the benefit of the doubt at 8. I put Stroud at 9. And I got Brock Purdy at 10. I left Dak and Jared Goff out. Certainly, if someone wanted to argue that either of those two guys should take Brock Purdy's spot, that's fine. Maybe a little bit of a bias, maybe in a 49er guy, putting Brock Purdy at 10 there. But yeah, I got Stroud at 9. I mean, he is playing lights out right now. And here's the thing. Let's compare his weapons, Andrew.
Dude, he's got nothing.
Let's compare him to Tua's weapons, for instance. Burrow's weapons. Josh Allen's weapons. I mean, Tank Dell. I mean, these are not household names that he's throwing the ball to. So, give him some credit for that as well.
Yeah, man, for sure. And Tank Dell has been having a nice season. He's come up big in some spots, but you look at that depth chart on paper with what the Texans have, it's not great. It's definitely the worst of the teams who the quarterbacks play for that we just listed. Great stuff, though. I'm glad we both have Stroud top 10. I also feel like the Eric Bieniemy conversations are going to start picking up, and we got to have these conversations now. I feel like he's done a pretty decent job once again as O coordinator in Washington. While KC's offense not as lethal as we're used to in the past, a lot of that does come down to some of the weapons or lack thereof on that team for sure. But as you look up and down the NFL, I feel like there could be a lot of potential head coaching openings. We've already seen the Raiders make changes. Next coach to be fired markets are interesting. We've got Eberflus plus 275, Todd Bowles in Tampa 4-1, Belichick plus 450, and there have been rumors about the Pats maybe thinking about a change after Germany. Staley and Dable are there at 5-1. Who would your money be on in that market? And do you see Eric Bieniemy finally getting, in my opinion, a long overdue shot at a head coaching job?
Gosh, in that market, I think I'd go with Staley 5-1.
Yeah.
Because he's the guy who, makes these wild at times fourth down decisions, and you could see a couple of boneheaded decisions that he'd made leading to him being fired. That offense has got a lot of talent on it, and the defense has never lived up to expectations these last couple of years, even though they've got star power on the defensive side of the ball with Bosa, et cetera. So I'd go with Staley there. Eberflus probably has the worst like results this year. And by the way, if you've never seen an Eberflus press conference, that guy looks totally incompetent in front of a microphone. I mean,
yeah.
It's incredible. The questions that he's being asked, he's dancing, and it's almost like he's being pressed like a politician, and it's ugly. But the Bears don't typically fire coaches mid-year. It's just something that their ownership doesn't do, which is why I wouldn't go with him. I'd go with Staley at 5-1 for sure.
Yeah, that Chargers team feels ready-made to be better than they are. And it's the reason why I have Herbert at number 10 and you have him higher. I like Justin Herbert. I love the guy at Oregon. But just something weird. We've seen it, over and over with the team and Staley blowing chances late in games and letting leads slip away and several losses by, one possession, that kind of vibe. But back to Washington, 3-2 on the road. They are at the Seahawks this weekend, +7. Do you trust Bieniemy, Sam Howell, and company as 7-point road dogs here?
Well, I don't want to steal the thunder from our picks later in the show, but I like Seattle in this one.
Okay.
Definitely on the money line, potentially to cover. Like you said, that Washington offense is sneaky good. And I will say I didn't see as much of a drop-off from the defense as I was expecting when they lost Sweat and Young. I thought that we were just going to see them fall off a cliff. And obviously the pass rush wasn't as good against the Patriots, but they kind of held their own there. I like the point that you're making about, Bieniemy leaving the Chiefs, and that offense hasn't looked as good without him. I think that they miss him. And I think that, he is a big reason why the Chiefs are struggling. I don't want to say the Chiefs are struggling. Chiefs offense isn't as prolific as we're used to, and why the Washington offense is, overperforming to this point with a quarterback that not many people had heard of coming into this year.
But high draft stock with Sam Howell when he was in university. Sort of seeing what I'm air quoting hype here, what the hype with him was about. Like, he looks like a legit quarterback on Sundays in this league. So sort of interesting times with Washington there. I want to move on to Survivor Pools. Survivor Pool season really heating up now as we're into week 10. I know, Tony, you're a big Survivor Pool guy. So what is your status in some of those pools that you're in?
The biggest one that I'm in, it's the biggest Survivor Pool contest in the world. It started with a little over 9,000 people, 9,267 people playing for $9.267 million. And I've got 2 entries left. There's 1,153 people left. So almost 90% of the pool is gone. I got a little crazy, a little frisky last night. I put one of my entries on the Bears, believe it or not.
Wow.
I was looking ahead. Yeah, man. You know what it was? I know. Looking ahead, I like the Bengals in this spot. And then as the news started coming out about Chase and about Higgins, I started looking at my other options. I put myself in this position, and I was like, I got to have my pick in by Saturday. If Saturday rolls around and I don't have clarity on those 2 Bengals receivers against this hot Texans team, do I trust the Bengals? No. So then after that, what are my choices? And I started weighing those choices. I said, you know what? I'm going to take the Bears because not a lot of people are going to be on the Bears. Projections on different, Survivor Pool websites say about 4% of people are going to be on the Bears. And, that's a big Survivor Pool strategy thing, is you kind of want to zig when everybody else zags. And so thinking not a lot of people are going to be on them, I can squeeze by here. I love that it was a revenge game. You know that I'm a big revenge game guy. And
Huge.
Deonta Foreman and the DJ Moore. 2 players on that Bears offense had big revenge game opportunities last night. So I kind of rolled with that. And I feel like I got lucky a little bit, honestly. There was times, I was losing at halftime. That was a big sweat last night, but happy to get by for sure.
Dude,
and yeah, I'm obsessed with Survivor.
Bears in a Survivor pool that's certainly a move, dude. Let me ask you this. If you win this big one, $9+ million, are you going to come back to co-host the Huddle with me?
Absolutely, man. I'll be back for sure. I'll absolutely be back. No doubt about it. But gosh, that sure would be nice, man. It's when you're doing a Survivor pool this big, I start focusing in on, for instance, the Bears game. I did way more handicapping of that one game. And honestly, I feel like it's kind of a detriment to my other handicapping. I'm a little behind on where I want to be in college basketball right now because I kind of have tunnel vision on this contest and it's just dominating my brain constantly. So, yeah, man, it's a blast so far. We'll see how it goes.
So that's an interesting point. Do you think that being this deep into a Survivor pool hinders the regular handicapping process that, bettors may have week to week?
It does when it's this big of one with this much at stake. This particular Survivor pool is wild. People are selling their entries. There's a marketplace where you can sell your entries mid-season. It's like nothing I've ever experienced. And so it dominates my brain. Sometimes I feel like, the Charlie Brown, like the wah, 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 the Charlie Brown's teacher.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel myself just like, sitting in traffic or whatever, or randomly spacing out, thinking about Survivor. It's an obsession. And, hopefully all that time that I've invested in it will be worth it at the end. We'll see.
Well, right now, Tony, I need you to start thinking about a little 2-minute trivia. We talked about CJ Stroud and Rookie of the Year odds. So today on the show, Tony, you're getting NFL Rookie of the Year trivia.
Ooh, okay.
I'm going to set the clock. 2 minutes. Are you ready?
Ready as I'm going to be.
Okay. Your time begins now. Who was last season's Offensive Rookie of the Year?
Offensive Rookie of the Year. Oh, man. That's an easy one, and I should get it. It was a wide receiver, I believe.
Correct.
Escaping. Oh, man. I'm having a brain fart right now. Pass.
Garrett Wilson of the New York Jets.
Oh, Jets.
So the Jets, Tony, last year were the third team to win both Offensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year in the same season. Sauce Gardner got it on the defensive end. Who was the last team to do that before the Jets last season?
Holy cow. Man, I was hoping the question was going to be Gardner, and I was ready to answer it for you. I don't remember another team doing that. It must have been forever ago.
It was 2017, the New Orleans Saints, Kamara and Lattimore.
Oh, wow, what a draft class there.
Who is the only player to win both Offensive Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same season?
Oh, man, maybe CJ Stroud soon. Who else? It wasn't Cam Newton his rookie year.
No, I'll give you a hint. You got to go back to, I think, 1957.
Oh, God. No chance, man. Absolutely no chance. Y.A. Tittle?
Jim Brown.
Ooh.
How many Offensive Rookies of the Year have the 49ers had?
Ooh. I'm going to say 2?
0.
Wow.
Name 2 49ers to win Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Defensive Rookie of the Year. Oh, man. Can I go with Ronnie Lott?
Ronnie Lott is incorrect.
Another Defensive Rookie of the Year for the Niners. Bosa.
Bosa was
Nick
one.
Bosa.
Can you give me a second? Think linebacker. Ole Miss linebacker.
Patrick Willis.
Patrick Willis. That's your clock. I'll give you that one. The other two were Dana Stubblefield and Bruce Taylor. Tough trivia.
Dana Stubblefield, man.
Yeah.
The trivia is tough. You and I have talked about it. When that clock is ticking,
It's difficult,
it puts a
man.
pressure on you, man. It makes things a lot harder for sure.
Let me just see here. Got some interesting ones here. Who was the first player to win Heisman and then Rookie of the Year?
Heisman and then rookie. I would go with Cam Newton for that one, no?
No, think Pitt running back.
Pittsburgh running back. Heisman and Rookie of the Year.
University of Pittsburgh.
Not sure.
Tony Dorsett.
Tony. Oh,
We'll give you one on that one. That was a tough one. I thought you'd get off to a flying start with Garrett Wilson there, but again,
you gave me an easy one to give me some momentum, man, and I couldn't remember last year's Rookie of the Year.
I gave you a layup. You came off the screen. I hit the bounce pass, and you missed the layup. We got some quarterback news. We got some quarterback news to discuss here before we get into our picks. Of course, Mike Vrabel confirmed that Will Levis, QB1 in Tennessee. Of course, not a huge surprise there with Ryan Tannehill being bumped down to QB2. But Kyler Murray returning for Arizona. They're at home to the Atlanta Falcons here, Tony. Looks like you can get Arizona anywhere from 1.5 to 2-point dogs here. But can you trust the Cardinals, this team going back to Kyler Murray under center here, especially in this spot here this week?
I'm kind of taking a wait and see approach with Murray. I did tease this up when this was at 2.5. I teased it up to 8.5, trying to kind of anticipate that the line would move after he got in the lineup. So I've got a little bit of a buffer there, but with a 1.5 point spread, let's see what his mobility looks like. You know, this is a guy who depends so much on his feet, not just for his rushing yards, but to create passing opportunities. And when you're coming off of a major surgery like that, I want to see it first. You know, if all of a sudden he looks like Superman in the first quarter, I might even get into some live betting opportunities, but I'm not going to bet anything pre-flop on the Cardinals until I see what this guy's mobility looks like.
And then Tommy DeVito getting the start for the New York Football Giants. And just shocking stuff here in terms of odds for this one. Giants 17-point road dogs here, sure. But the Giants team total for this one, Tony, 10.5, and the under is minus 145. I find this to be insane. Have you ever, or can you remember, a team full game total this low? 10.5.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. And I mean, I by the way, I can't remember it this low. This is, for an NFL game, this is shocking. We saw a couple weeks ago when DeVito got in for the first time, the fans were chanting, "Let him throw, let him throw." Granted, there were rainy conditions during that Jets game. I think we're now seeing why the Giants weren't letting him throw.
Yeah.
And, like, no fault to his own. I don't want to bash this guy. He's in over his head. I mean,
yes.
I don't know that he deserves to be on an NFL roster. When you look at his stats from college, and I didn't watch his games. I'm going off, just the box scores and his season stats in college. They weren't that impressive. I'm kind of surprised this guy's on a roster. And against this Dallas defense, which embarrassed the Giants when the Giants were healthy with Daniel Jones, this one could get ugly quick. And so if I had to lean on this one, it would be Dallas to cover despite the ridiculously high point spread.
Well, is there any sort of, when you get into sort of pro sports betting, is there any sort of rule of thumb here for a spread that high, a total that low? I think the total's 39. Or thereabouts. Are there any rules of thumb for words of wisdom for potentially new bettors looking at that game and just automatically thinking that the Cowboys are going to trounce them?
Yeah, usually like when the spread is lower like that, you want to take the points. You want to take the dog because it's going to be a lower scoring game. He is so bad that it's an outlier, and you're like, you know what? I actually think they're going to cover. You could see. Would anybody be surprised if Dallas put up 40 points in this game, had a couple pick sixes, a sack fumble, and the game went over that way? I don't think so. Would anybody be surprised if the Giants got shut out here? I don't think so. But yeah, I would lean toward Dallas here. He's just such a bad quarterback, and it's funny when we did our quarterback rankings. I don't know if you had this experience, Andrew. Like coming up with the top 10, it was somewhat difficult to place these guys. Then you get to like 14, 15, and it just drops off of a
Big
cliff.
Big time, man.
Like, holy cow. And DeVito is obviously way at the bottom of the quarterback rankings, but those guys in the middle, you know, I remember years past where like I'd have debates with my friends like, oh, is so-and-so a top 10 quarterback? And then you'd name like 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 quarterbacks. And you're like, wow, there's better quarterbacks in the league than I thought. It's the opposite this year where it's just people are struggling. Like even guys that you'd think, you know, would be doing better are not.
Yeah, very thin, this QB. Certainly QB group, certainly top-heavy superstars like Mahomes and Lamar and Jalen Hurts and our boy CJ Stroud. But yeah, man, once you get into 14, 15, big drop-off. Let's get into some quick-hitting picks here, Tony. Lead us off. What are you looking at for the NFL weekend ahead here?
I'm going to take the 49ers -3. I bet them -2.5 earlier this week when before the number went up. I still like it at 3. 49ers are getting healthy. Trent Williams back at practice. We're not sure if he's going to play, but the bigger name, Deebo Samuel, the fact that he's going to be back in this offense, running the ball, and being able to open things up on that offense for Brock Purdy, I think that's going to be huge. 49ers, I think, have a huge motivation edge in this game. They need this game. 3 straight losses, coming off a bye. You just brought in Chase Young. Can you imagine the media in the Bay Area if the 49ers were to lose this game? There's a ton of pressure on them, and I think that's going to do well for them. Whereas Jacksonville, yeah, Houston's in their rearview mirror, but they've got a little bit of a buffer in that division. I'm not saying they're going to come out and be lackadaisical, but they just don't have the motivation that I think the 49ers will have in this game. You got Steve Wilkes coming down from the booth. I think that's going to kind of help the 49ers defense out a little bit, as well as Chase Young being added to this defense. Defense should be revamped. They're getting healthier on that side of the ball as well. Give me the 49ers to cover here.
Yeah, bit of a weird one, man, starting 5-0 and then dropping 3 straight. It'll be interesting to see Chase and hopefully some more pressure on opposing quarterbacks for the Niners. I'm looking at this Lions-Chargers game. I'm going to go Chargers +3 here. Chargers on back-to-back blowout wins coming into this one, yes, against the dregs of the league, but nonetheless, nice little spell of momentum for maybe a little playoff push perhaps. And the Chargers have played 4 home games, 1 blowout win over the Bears, 7-point win against the Raiders, 2 losses to the Dolphins and Cowboys by a combined 5 points. So I reckon that they're going to keep this one close. And Chargers are elite at keeping the ball. This team does not give the ball away cheaply. Just 6 giveaways on the season, tied for second fewest entering Week 10. No cheap opportunities for the Lions in this one. What do you got next?
I like it. It always feels good taking the Chargers with points because that offense is kind of built for backdoor covers. It's like even if they get behind early, you know they're going to be throwing late, and they've got the wide receivers and the quarterback to get it done. My next one for you, it's a 2-team 6-point teaser. I do have a little bit of a caveat here for you, though. We've got the Seahawks and Bengals basically just winning the game outright. If you're going to put this in as a 6-point teaser, check it as a money line parlay as well, because depending on the price that you have at your sports books, you might get much better odds doing it as a money line parlay. The price of teasers are going up, by the way. The word is out that teasers have been profitable for some bettors, so keep that in mind. Got a second caveat for you. Make sure that at least one of the Bengals wide receivers, Higgins or Chase, is playing in this game. I no longer like this bet if both of those guys are out, but the bet is Seahawks winning and then the Bengals winning. Bengals offense has looked unstoppable lately. Joe Burrow got healthy, and this is a completely different offense. I think this is a bit of a step down in class for Seattle. They've been playing some tough defenses lately. The Ravens are brutal. All of a sudden, you're going to be going up against a Washington defense that, again, is without those pass rushers. I like these two teams to win outright.
Love it. Back on the teaser train. I'm taking a look at college football and an absolutely massive, massive game this weekend. Michigan at Penn State. I'm going to go under 45 in this one. Penn State, 10th in the country in terms of time of possession. Michigan, number 17. These teams love the ground and pound. They love to run the ball. Not Service Academy level, of course, but Michigan, 57%. Penn State, 52%. Michigan, number 1 in opponent yards per game. Penn State, number 2, right behind them. So a couple of elite defenses here. Penn State loves takeaways, number 2 in the nation. Also, Drew Aller, much better at home for the Nittany Lions than on the road. And there is upset potential here. Michigan, up until this point, one of the easiest schedules in the country. And then from here on out, of schedules remaining, they've got it the hardest because, of course, they're at number 10 Penn State here. And then they've got Ohio State in 2 weeks' time. What a dub this would be for Franklin, though. But I'm going to take the under in a potentially close game.
I like it. One of the best games of the week. Again, this Texans-Bengals game. I like over 47 here. I don't know if you've seen the Texans injury report. They've got 23 guys on their injury report.
Yeah.
9 of them significant enough injuries where they didn't practice as of yesterday. A lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball banged up. Jimmy Ward banged up. We saw this defense look a lot worse when he wasn't in the lineup in the past. They put another safety on IR because he got hurt last week. So you got the Texans defense going up against Joe Burrow, and you're down 2 safeties. That is going to be a tough task for that defense. And then, of course, 2 really good quarterbacks, as we've talked about already in this show. I think there could be fireworks. But again, let's make sure Jamar Chase or T. Higgins are in this lineup for this game.
Yeah, tough for the Texans with all those injuries going into this tough game with a resurgent Bengals team. I was an Adam Thielen touchdown away from my anytime touchdown prop parlay prop last week. Let's do it again. I'm going to look at George Kittle plus 175. All 3 of his touchdowns this season came in one game. I've been waiting for another big game from this guy. He had the targets and yardage last game against Cincy, so we'll see if that continues this week. Lamar Jackson plus 150 had a pair against the Browns earlier this season. Massive AFC North game this weekend at home. I feel like he could be the man again this week in this one. So let's hope for that one. And then third, Gabe Davis, plus 162 anytime touchdown. The home away splits on this guy are shocking with this dude. 4 catches for 73 yards and 1 touchdown on the road. 27 grabs, 361 yards and 4 TDs at home. Bills, of course, at home to Denver. This one comes in at plus 17.01. So there's your anytime touchdown parlay. So there you go. 6 picks.
I like it.
To get you going for the weekend. One thing I did want to talk about just real quick. A couple weeks ago when the James Harden trade came down, I was a little less than thrilled about it for the Clips. And then here we are. I think 2 games in with Harden. Clips are 0-2 straight up and against the spread. And the 76ers, 6-1, but 7-0 against the spread. They're better. I talked about it. It's addition by subtraction for the Sixers. Embiid's popping off. Clippers are struggling. I love to see it. Tyrese Maxey, like what a player this guy is. So I know it's a small sample size, but your boys' thought came to fruition a little bit here. Clips struggling. Sixers looking real good in the East. So thank you all so much for watching or listening. If you choose to listening on podcast, give us a follow on Twitter. If you do not already, that's at Oddshark on Twitter, at Oddshark Sports on Instagram, and at Oddshark Betting on TikTok. Give us a like and drop your favorite bet for the weekend in the comments section below. Tony, thanks as always. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week on The Huddle.